Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it was a beautiful September day in 2001. I'm driving to work, and I hear that a plane hits the World Trade Center. And I was a newly minted pilot at the time, a private pilot, and I remember thinking, how could a plane fly into a big building? And then I heard that another plane hit the other tower. And then eventually I heard one hit a field in Pennsylvania and the Pentagon, not too far from here. And I realized that America was a country under attack. It was under attack by an ideology that believes that anybody that believes different than their brand of theology is not just wrong, but that they're worthy of death. And in fact, takes that belief and actually implements it by killing innocent men, women, and children, including folks of their own religious ideology. Mr. Speaker, as a result of that, America became a generation that went to war to defeat this ideology. I myself am a veteran of the wars and spent quite a bit of time in Iraq. And I've got to tell you, Mr. Speaker, I heard the other day that Al-Qaeda, let me stress this, Al-Qaeda, America's #1 enemy, raised the black flag over Fallujah, over an area that the United States Marines, who have fought harder than they have since any battle since Vietnam, fought to achieve and take over and bring peace to Fallujah. Mr. Speaker, Al-Qaeda raised the black flag over Fallujah. This is an epic failure of American foreign policy and an epic resurgence of America's chief enemy. You know, in 2011, President Obama had an opportunity to make a decision about whether America would continue to show its support for a free Iraq, whether America would continue to be the intercessory between difficult back and forth and continue to bring people together in Iraq, as we did during the surge, which the President opposed. And we're finding out more information may have actually been for political reasons. Shocker. We're finding out, Mr. Speaker, that Al-Qaeda now has a town very close to Baghdad. This is a failure of American foreign policy. If you look into Syria, Mr. Speaker, you see a brutal dictator that kills people and has no compunction about killing innocent women and children just to maintain power. You see, in essence, he's become a strong partner to the United States in order to dechemicalize his country and take chemical weapons out of his arsenal. But yet on the other part of Syria, you see not the moderate forces of opposition to Mr. Assad. You now see Al-Qaeda-related forces overpowering moderate opposition to Assad. And you see that because of America's foreign policy, which said we supported the Free Syrian Army, but in reality has not supported the Free Syrian Army. If you look in Egypt, you see the Egyptian people stand up and say, we don't want to have one dictator replaced by another. We don't want the Muslim Brotherhood to run our country and change our constitution. But we have no idea where the president's at in this. We've taken a very important ally in the Middle East and basically told him that we're not interested in their political future. You look at the instability in Lebanon. You look at the questions with the people of Afghanistan about what's going to happen post-2014 as America committed to defeating Al-Qaeda and to defeating the Taliban. I could go on and on. You look at the deal we have with Iran, basically giving Iran the option of continuing to enrich uranium. Mr. Speaker, 5 years ago, I could not have written a sadder story about where American foreign policy could be. Because what I see now in the United States is that our allies no longer trust us and our enemies no longer fear us. Mr. Speaker, the United States needs to use limited air power in Iraq to push Al-Qaeda back out of Iraq. We need strong intelligence assets to work with the government of al-Maliki to ensure that Al-Qaeda has no foothold in Iraq again. It is not too late to reverse the tragic foreign policy consequences of what we've seen in the Middle East. But, Mr. Speaker, this has to be done today. This has to be done now. The blood of Americans have sacrificed for a free Iraq and a free Afghanistan. We cannot let that sacrifice be in vain. Mr. Speaker, I yield back.
Gentleman yields back.